And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to welcome back for the second year in the row the incredible New York Times bestselling Kate Moretti, here to spill the tea, as the cool kids say, about her brand new book, The Spires. Kate, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Thank you, Sarah. Your energy is amazing. I feel like I should have taken a shot of, 5-hour energy or something like that just to match you.
Oh my God, I love
it. So The Spires is coming out tomorrow. So thank you so much for having me. And it is about a group of 5 friends who live together immediately after college. And of course, something terrible happens and there's a murder or an accident or something tragic. It's hard to say without reading the book. And then in like a lot of my books, 20 years later, the past comes back, which is sort of a theme that I feel like I keep beating to death, but it's just so fun. I can't help it. I hope I tackle it a little bit of a different way each time. But so then there's a present storyline and a past storyline, and how they intersect is, I'm hoping, fun and delicious.
Ooh, fun and delicious. Well, we are here for every delicious tidbit, and I can't wait to get into every single part of that. But first, I just want to welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you've been here before, you know the drill. And if you're new, here's the drill. Every Monday for hashtag Mystery Monday, because you know Mondays can be murder, I hand pick authors and present them to you, and you get to ask them anything. This is your time to talk to these incredible best-selling authors. So ask Kate about The Spires. Ask her about her writing process. Ask her about her characters. Ask her anything that's weighing on your mind. Last year, we talked to Kate about her resident ghost, or lack thereof. We're going to be checking in on that. So sit tight, but let's get the comments going. So anything you want to ask, get it going in the comments, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on Facebook, on my channels, Murder by the Books, wherever you're watching, I will see them pop up and I'll get them right over to Kate. Leslie is saying hello, ladies. Hey, Leslie, welcome.
Hi, Leslie.
Great to see you. She's tuning in from Canada, and that's her signature Canadian hello.
Hello.
I love it. I love it. Okay, Kate, let's get into this book. So, do you believe in ghosts, Kate?
It's funny. I do, sort of. I want them to be real more than they are actually real. I love the idea of a ghost. I love the idea of, I think that I'm always looking when I'm writing for that sort of past coming back to haunt you feeling, whether or not it's a ghost or it's, a previous relationship or a previous friendship. So I love the idea of a ghost. I've never actually had a close encounter with supernatural. So everybody says if you don't have that experience, chances are you're not a believer, because they only appear to believers. So I live in like a 200-year-old house, and I'm pretty sure there's got to be a ghost here, but I have never felt anything or heard anything. And I think that's really unfair, actually. I'm very mad about it. So I think
when we hosted you last year, we talked about your 200-year-old house that you live in. You shared that every night you turn off all the lights, you look out at the barn, which is even older than the house, and you wait.
And I look at the windows, and even now, like, I'll get out of my car at night and I'll look up at the windows in the front of the barn, and I really think that any day now there's going to be a face looking back at me, and it's going to be awesome and terrifying, and it has not happened.
Yeah. And is it happening?
No.
Do you think maybe you want it too much, Kate? Like you're thirsty for the ghost, and the ghost doesn't like that weird, desperate energy.
Like you're so desperate. I can't.
Oh my gosh.
You're sitting in your living room, like, where's my ghost?
Where's my ghost? All right, tell us in the comments who believes in ghosts. Let's get down to it. Who believes in ghosts? Who has seen a ghost? Leslie is saying, I love ghosts and anything related. Leslie, what do you love about ghosts? Do you love the idea of the ghost? Do you love, what is it that you love? That it's something that you can't truly prove? Tell us what you love. Gail is saying she does. Gail, have you seen one? Or do you just want to? Are you just thirsty for the ghost like Kate is? Let us know. Melissa Watson, welcome. Mystery and Thriller Maven member. They're good to see you, girl. Always great to have you. Thanks for joining us. And look at your cute little dog. I just love seeing that little face. I'm just logging on to watch on all the screens so I don't miss anybody's comments. So I'm logging on over here because I don't want to miss a darn thing. Gail is saying she thinks she has seen one. Whoa. Mary Beth, sweetie, so good to have you here, my dear friend Mary Beth. She's saying, I heard a ghost at the Omni Parker Hotel in Boston. Oh my God, that's terrifying. I'm adding it to my list of hotels to never, ever go to.
I'm adding it to my list of hotels to visit immediately.
Kate is going to jump into the car and drive to Boston.
I'll be there tonight.
She's gonna take this call from the car. She's getting ready to go. Leslie says she's had several encounters. I like the mystic of them, why they remain, what do they want?
What do they want? That's right. What do they want?
Let's hone in on that because Kate, that's a central theme in the Spires is this unfinished business, this past of not being able to get away from it, never really being able to bury something. What's the fascination?
Are you asking me or are you asking Leslie?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Are you asking me or Leslie? Yes. I don't know. It's kind of funny because I feel like every book I write, I'm still revisiting that same theme where I'm this past is coming back. In Bracken Hill, there was an actual ghost. In the Spires, it's less supernatural and more of the past coming back in a very physical and present way. And the way, so the main character is Penelope, and she's just, being a 40-year-old mom in her life. And all of a sudden her old roommate from college knocks on her door and says, I need to stay with you for 2 weeks. I just need to hide out until I figure out a plan. I'm running away from this abusive relationship. And she can't say no. This woman was her best friend 20 years ago. So she lets her stay with her and, slowly get her fingers into everything about Penelope's life. So it is more of like a physical haunting of the past, which is fun too, which I had a lot of fun writing, whether it's supernatural or whether it's actual people haunting you. I think I'm really just desperate to be haunted.
That is a bold thing to say aloud, Kate.
I know.
Kate is just putting it out there. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So your last book, which you were here to tell us about last year, The Girls Back in Hell, had an actual terrifying ghost. This one dealing with the themes of old friends, old
love, back to relationships, old secrets.
Old secrets. Debbie says, I think it's possible, but I've never had a sighting. Probably God is protecting me so I don't keel over. LOL. I used to feel a chill in one part of my house when I first bought it, but not anymore. I'm not sure why it happened. I used to joke it was my mom. Kate's coming to your house next, Debbie. Look out. And Debbie would like to know, would you describe your book as a psychological thriller, Kate?
I think so. I always do some element of psychological thriller. I think it's a little more, it's always a little more terrifying to me than than like the jump out and scare or the car chase. It's that idea that you can, or not, not like I would do this, but you can mess with somebody's mind. Someone can mess with your mind and you don't know, like, you don't know what to believe. Am I crazy? Am I, this seems like, wildly out of control, but maybe me. And I kind of love doing that to all my people. Like every book, I have some element of where I'm just screwing with somebody, and I don't know. Maybe I need therapy.
Oh my gosh. Debbie is saying, come to Arizona. There's lots of haunted places. Okay, Debbie, good to know. I'll be skipping Arizona. Kate will be heading straight there. And Kate, for everyone who's watching, what would you describe as the difference between a psychological thriller versus a regular thriller versus a mystery? How would you define the differences?
So I always think of a psychological thriller as having some element deeply seated in psychology. I mean, so and I really like that. And the way you can um, very slowly, I don't know, make someone go crazy, make somebody go a little bit, lose their sense of reality. A lot of the psychological thrillers I've read are usually around. So the fear is more. It's more. It's more in your head. So to me, it's more terrifying because you never know if it's a real fear or if it's, am I making too big of a deal about it? Am I not making enough of a big deal about it? And then you turn around and the bad guy is there, right there. And, the whole book leading up to that was mostly about their relationship. So it always seems like the bad guy is very closely connected. It's not just, it's not like an FBI story or a police procedural. It's more about the connections between people and the things that we do to each other that are kind of terrible.
I love that. Yeah, that's a really good description because it's almost like the thing that is unknown, the idea of not knowing is almost the scariest part.
Right. That's what I really like is that little piece of unknown where it's that scene right before you figure out who the bad guy is, and when all of these little intricate pieces sort of fall together and you realize exactly why someone has been terrible.
Exactly. Gail's saying she has to jump off, but she just ordered the book. Yay! Oh, thank you so much, Gail. That's amazing. We so appreciate you stopping by, and we so appreciate you ordering the book, supporting a woman-owned independent bookstore. Thank you very much. That's lovely. For everyone else, I'm going to go ahead and post the link right here. So, y'all, the book isn't even out yet. We are getting the scoop the night before publication. Dun, dun, dun. And so you can grab your copy tonight, putting the link right here in the comments. And it ships tomorrow the instant it comes off the presses. It's so exciting. So I just popped it up. There it is. So grab your copy. Gail, thanks for stopping by. Liz is saying, I've never encountered a ghost, but I've lived in some very old New England homes.
I love New England.
Liz, I feel like I'm sure there was something there in one of the places. Oh my goodness. So Kate, back to creating the sense of fear, the sense of foreboding, this sense of suspense, because I think that is the essence of what keeps us as a reader up at night. That's what keeps us turning the pages. We have to know, and not knowing is what keeps us reading. So having written as many books as you have, as a New York Times bestselling author, having received so many starred Kirkus reviews, so many honors, so much, what do you think is the real secret to doing that well? What's the trick?
It's kind of funny because every single time I sit down to write a book, I think, I don't really know how to do this anymore. So I almost think that with every book, it's a little bit different. I don't know that there is one secret. I think to me, I always want to make sure that I'm going back and forth between action and emotion and atmosphere and characterization and with a little bit of creepiness. And I love that sort of claustrophobic feeling when you're reading, where you just feel like, you don't know exactly why the walls are closing in, but they are. Like you can sort of feel it. And I absolutely love that feeling. And I love when I read a book and I get that feeling. So I try to recreate that with every book I write. And I do think it's really fun to, I'll be writing a lot of times and I'll work in a little cliffhanger at the end of a chapter and I'll think, I didn't plan that, but I sort of felt like it needed a little something fun to happen. And, so then I have to go back and figure out, well, what does that mean? And a funny story, when I was writing the Spires, it was one of the I don't know, first couple chapters. So it's not like a big spoiler or anything, but she's talking to her friend and she looks down and she says, she thinks, she's wearing my necklace. And you don't know if she really is or not, but that necklace sort of comes back in other chapters and you're thinking, did she really wear it? Do they have the same necklace? Is she stealing it? You know, so some of that stuff is sort of fun to lace through, this sense of like, okay, well, there's like a brick falling, you know, and wondering when there's going to be another one, if that makes sense.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. I love that. Welcome, Randy. Welcome, Marsha. Welcome, Casey. Welcome, Mary. Again, welcome, everybody. Great to have you. Welcome, Karen. Making sure I didn't miss anybody's comments. Melissa would like to know, Kate, where did you get the inspiration for the story regarding the friends? Ooh, great question, Melissa, because women's friendships are so interesting, and old friendships and secrets and coming back to bite you in the tuchus 20 years later. Give us the scoop.
So the inspiration from this story, it was kind of funny. My inspiration always comes from like little pieces in a bunch of different places. You know, so I knew I've been wanting to write a like an ensemble type cast book for a while, where there's a group of people and you don't necessarily get everyone's point of view, but you get to know their personalities really well. And I love that. And then I love the idea of these 5 friends. It was 2 men and 3 women, and sharing this house together, what their relationships would look like, what their friendships would look like, you know, who's hooking up with who. So that's always sort of fun. Who's in love with who, and you know, exploring that, and then the repercussions from all of that. So there's a little bit of obsession, a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of mistakes, and then you have 5 people who are very young in the early part of their life. And I remember having these friendships. I didn't live in a house like this, but I definitely, you know, I had roommates and we had a core group of friends. So I remember, and believe me, our relationships were nothing like this. Is way more interesting than anything I ever had. But it was fun to sort of go back to that time in my life when you're in your early 20s and everything sort of feels very possible, but also you don't feel like you feel like you're going to be in that place forever. Like it doesn't always feel like you're going to have a life outside of or past this year or these 2 years. So you take a lot of risks that you won't take later in life. You know, you're not as afraid. And so having those friendships and living in that situation and then putting them in a house that I made an old renovated church, I really was trying to give the feeling of this claustrophobia coming in, like all of these relationships and the way they have treated each other or the way they've mistreated each other, or there are going to be repercussions from this. And sometimes those repercussions are going to be, 20 years later.
Do you think that there always are repercussions, Kate, or do you think sometimes somebody literally gets away with murder?
Oh, in real life, I think somebody gets away with murder, but I always want to write some kind of justice into my stories. So, and that was, and I don't want to give a spoiler, but I got a lot of reader feedback from Bracken Hill. Bracken Hill, and people were saying the killer gets away with it. And I'm like, but do they? Like, they live for the rest of their life in a prison of their own making, which to me is like the most fun kind of justice. When you're trapped in the hell you made yourself, good for you.
Yeah, that's
something that's always really fun for me to play with. So no, I mean, I do think that in real life, I think people get away with it, but I don't think that makes the most fun story necessarily.
I love that. And I totally agree. In fact, I just was chatting with our last guest, and who's a crime reporter turned author, Julia Dahl. And she was saying,
I love Julia.
Isn't she amazing? So she was saying that in some places, I was saying that in the course of researching my next book, I found out that 30% of murders in the US go unsolved. They go unpunished. I'm surprised
that it's that low. I've got to be honest.
So I was surprised it was that high. I would have thought here in 2021 with forensics and DNA and fingerprinting and traffic cams and security cams and everything we have, I would have thought it was a 99% solve rate. Poor jerk, like solve rate. Naive jerk. No, 30% of people literally get away with murder in the United States today. And then Julie was saying that actually in some places it's 50%. 50%.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy. So and that search for justice is something that haunts us. I mean, that's why we love true crime, because we need to know, we need it to be wrapped up. So it's such an interesting concept to and I share it. I need closure, Kate.
When I am into true crime, I will skip the ones that aren't resolved yet, because I'm like, well, that's no fun.
Exactly.
So I mean, there's a couple of true crime. I'm really into true crime podcasts, and the ones that come on that don't necessarily like. I'll look up the case and I'll I'll see, does this one have a resolution? Has somebody like gone to prison for this? And if they're not, I'm like, skip next. I need to know the bad guy's caught, at least when I'm entertaining myself in the car.
Exactly. At least when I'm entertaining myself in the car. Exactly. Welcome, Sarah. Welcome, Melissa. Welcome, Philip. Welcome, Pat. Welcome, Mary. Great to have y'all here. Let us know what questions you have for Kate. Kate, you got a great, I love this quote from Kirkus saying, Moretti amps up the betrayals inch by inch until you're wondering if things can possibly get worse. And I love that because it's exactly what you intended to do. This claustrophobic, the walls are closing in feeling. So how do you actually pull that off as a writer? Are you plotting it out and then looking for ways to like tighten it up, or how do you actually do that?
It's kind of funny. Yes, I do. Usually what I will do is start any book I'm starting with some sort of bare bones outline. And I usually, I get the major plot points and then a couple of these little pinch points in between. But then from rock to rock, if it were, I just make it up. And then, if the gap seems a little big and I'm writing and I'm like, oh, this is a little bit slow. This chapter is a little bit about characterization or emotions, or then all of a sudden that's when I will write, and then she was wearing the necklace, dun, 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 and that's the kind of stuff that I love. Like, I love that when I'm making that leap from one plot point to the next, and something occurs to me that I didn't plan, and now I have to restructure stuff because I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. I want to keep it. So I would, everybody always says, oh, you're either a pantser or a plotter. And I always think, well, I'm kind of in the middle. I plot out the major stuff, and then I sort of pants everything in between.
And do you ever find yourself stuck where nothing's coming? You're like, well, there's a space between these two rocks and I don't know how to fill it.
I don't know how to get there. Oh yeah, all the time. A lot of times, you can jump to another section and then that'll sort of unlock it. For the longest time, there was one book that I wrote, and for the longest time, through several drafts, the end just said something brilliant here. It's like the absolute worst thing I can do to my future self. Like,
I love
it.
it.
I would just lay in bed and be like, I need the brilliant thing. What is the brilliant thing? And I was like looking for something to inspire the brilliant thing, and there was nothing. So that happened, and that was super stressful. And I thought, never again will I write an entire book and not know how it ends. Like, that doesn't even make sense. I don't know why I did this.
Yeah.
And that book needed a lot of rewriting anyway.
Oh my God, rewriting is the bane of my existence. I also loved that Red Carpet Crash said, this is another solid thriller from author Moretti with twists and turns that keeps the reader engaged throughout the story. Let's talk about the twists and turns. So are those the space between the rocks that you pants, or are those the rocks that you plot?
So it's both. So, and I always, in Bracken Hill and the Spires, my two biggest twists, well, not the biggest ones, but the one after the big one, as it were, it was sort of my editor. Like, I handed in the whole draft and she was like, oh, this is great, but what if we did this ridiculous, crazy thing? And, I would always, I would say, sure, let's do it. So I feel like some of it is that collaboration between the author and editor is so amazing. And I get so much freedom out of it. Which is sort of contrary to what you would think, but I feel like she unlocks parts of my brain that are locked up with how I think the story is going to go. And all she has to say is, let's do this crazy thing. And all of a sudden I am like, yes. And the crazier stuff. Like, what about this? She has yet to tell me I've gone a bridge too far.
But what has it ever gotten to the point where she's like, and then what if we bring in a robot? And you're like, no to the robot. Were you ever like,
no aliens?
Has that ever happened?
No, I don't think either one of us have pushed it too far. Like, I felt like, I feel like, she offers me a suggestion and then I can just sort of take off. And when I hand it back into her, or if we're talking, when we were doing the Spires, we had one really amazing phone call, like hours long.
Wow.
And we just sort of were like, okay, but then what about this? Maybe the main motivation here could be this. And it was just the most fun writing I think I've ever had. Like, it was just so much fun. And I said, this is what it's like to be in a TV show when you have a writer's room.
Oh my gosh, I've always thought it would be so fun to be in a writer's room. That sounds fantastic.
I know, me too. And on a TV show, when you can just bounce like imaginary ideas off of each other, fantastic.
Like the Friends TV show, maybe.
Yeah.
I also loved this part that Kirkus said, this is suburban creepiness for some night when you already can't sleep. So who else is not sleeping during this pandemic? Me. Yeah, exactly. So as long as I'm up, I might as well be up with a good book, keeping me up with your creepy factor, Kate, henceforth to be known as Creepy Kate Moretti.
I'll take it.
Keeping us up with your suburban creepiness. I loved that. I love that because I love being kept awake by a good book where I'm just devouring it and saying, I'm so tired, I want to go to sleep, but I've got to read one more chapter. So that I really loved that review as well. Melissa would like, oh my God, Melissa, I love you. Okay. She wants to know the story of the title. And I want to know the story of the cover. So start with the title first. I'm going to hold it up so everyone can see.
Okay. The Spires. So the story of the title is, I'm trying to think of what it was originally called. It wasn't the Spires. It's funny because I don't even think this one had a title. I think it was just like, the church house or something. It was lame. I knew it wasn't going to keep it. And I was like pretty much done with the draft. And I think we were in the editing process and, starting the editing process. And my editor was like, listen, we really need a title. And I said, I know, but for the first, like every book, I think every book I've written, except for In Her Bones, the publisher has kept my title, which is really unusual. I said, listen, for some reason, I am completely blanking on an amazing title. And I always want something a little weird, a little bit different, something that sticks with you. I felt like The Girls of Bracken Hill was, it had the girls thing in it. Listen, you got to grab a brass ring when it's there.
You grab it.
But the Bracken Hill part, I felt like was a cool word,
Yeah.
So the Spires, we were going back and forth, and I said, what if at the time, I said, what if they have, like a fake band, like the five of them, they're not in a real band. And I remember having those kinds of conversations in my 20s, like what would our band name be, that kind of thing. And so my editor and I said, once you come up with that, then it sort of opened the door to anything. And we went back and forth with a lot. And because they were living in a church, we went back and forth with like a ton of very like religiously inappropriate titles that I said, no, we can't call a book like, anything related to religion or church, because then then people are going to think it's a Christian book or like I don't know, anti-Christian book. It's neither. So,
this is a thriller, people.
Right. It's a thriller. It's not a religious book. And so I said, well, we could work in the aspects of the church. And that's when we started going through, like, we were like, oh, the altar, the blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what about the spire? And that's when we all went, ooh, So it was sort of fun to think of it from that angle. I think it's the first time I ever came up with a title and then worked it back into the narrative, and then once I had it and I was revising, I could work it in all over. It was like their band name. It's how they identified with themselves and with each other, and it connected a lot of their friendships. So, and then it sort of became a clue, and then it was fun. I got to just stick it in there. Oh, something happened to your sound.
Oh, wait. Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
Now we know you wove that in retroactively. Thanks to the great question, Melissa. And thank you for that behind the scenes. Kate, tell us the story of this cover. Oh my God, George is suggesting the Pew Posse.
The Pew Posse would have been amazing. I don't know where George was, a year and a half ago.
Yeah, George, where were you with the Pew Posse? I think done. Fantastic.
It would have been amazing.
Kate, you always have really beautiful covers, but I love the stairs and the colors and the leaves on these steps. Tell us the story of the cover. Was this the first choice? Did you get one that was hideous and you rejected it outright?
No, I have had nothing but an amazing experience with Thomas and Mercer and their covers. And the first mock-up they sent was sort of this spiral staircase, which is really in line with the title, the Spires. But there was just something about it, and I kept wanting to make it work. And I just kept sending it back to the cover artist and saying, can we zoom in? Can we zoom out? And this poor man, he did everything I asked him to do. And it turns out everybody who told me it wouldn't work was right, and it didn't work. But then they sent me this cover, and it does have the steps on it. It's a straight staircase. And they said, well, it's actually could be the staircase in another part of the book that is important. And I went, oh my God, it is. It's that staircase. I was thinking of the staircase that you would take to the bell tower or something like that. And that's more of a curved type of staircase. But the most important staircase in the book was not curved. And so I said, oh, wait, you're right. You were right all along. And I really feel bad for these people that are stuck with authors that are really in their head, and you can't convince them except to just do what they asked 10 times and have it look bad, and then show me something amazing and me go, yeah, you were right, which is what happened.
Exactly.
I love the leaves too. I love it looks just abandoned.
It really does. It looks old. It looks creepy. It looks abandoned. It looks like hasn't always been disturbing anything for a good long, maybe 20 years.
20 years.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. All right. We have 2 minutes left, everybody.
Wow.
Any last questions you have for Kate, get them going in the comments. And I will get them right over to her. Meanwhile, I'm going to post the link to continue the conversation. If you love mysteries and thrillers as much as we do, and obviously you do, because that's why you're here, continue the conversation with me over on Facebook in my Mystery and Thriller Maven group, free and open to all, where we continue to nerd out about the books we're reading. And I also take author requests. You can submit your questions in advance over there. Hey, Benjamin. Hey, Jill. Good to have you both with us. Something that was submitted in advance in the Mystery and Thriller Mavens group was, which of your characters, 1 or 2 characters from any of your books, would you most like to be stuck on a desert island with, and why?
Oh, God.
Is that a great question?
It is a really great
Amber
question.
submitted that.
So my favorite character that I've ever written is Edie Beckett from In Her Bones. I would not want to be stuck with her. She's not a bad human, and she ends up at the end. There's a redemption arc, and she definitely gets her act together. But for most of the book, she taught herself how to pick locks. Like, why would you do that? Like, normal upstanding citizens don't teach themselves to break into every lock. She has a box of locks, and she lays there at night and picks them. And to me, it was really fun to write someone who was completely my opposite. Who in any given situation where I would maybe back down and do the cordial thing, she's not ever going to do that. So it might be fun to be stuck with her. I feel like I would be terrified of her the whole time. I would just be like, do you want a coconut? Like, okay, I'll get you a coconut.
Yeah, pacify her with coconuts. Okay, so Edie is your final answer.
I think so, because she'd be the most interesting. If I'm going to be stuck there forever, I need someone to entertain me.
And maybe terrorize you.
I mean, maybe. It's really a double-edged sword.
Welcome, Benjamin. Welcome, Brad. Welcome, Christina. Welcome, Jacqueline. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Kate, anything you wish I'd asked you? Anything you want to share?
I don't think so. I've had the best time here. You have such like a fun, captive, very active audience. So this was great.
I have to say, I have the best audience ever. I love my mystery and thriller mavens. They always ask the best questions. Y'all are the best. And we always have such a fun and interesting and unique conversation. So I'm posting the link one more time to grab a copy of the Spires. It's coming out tomorrow and you can order it tonight. So it'll ship first thing. You're going to want to get your hands on this tasty book. Kate, thank you so much for coming on the show again. Oh, wait, one last question from Debbie. What are you working on now? Debbie, great question. Kate, give us the skinny.
Okay, well, right now I'm sort of slowly, by this point in any other book I would have written and that's releasing, I would have been on the revisions already for the next book. The pandemic sort of changed the calculus a little bit there. I had kids at home for 18 months, so I'm just now sort of getting my feet back under me in terms of writing and creativity. So I'm working on a book now. It's very early days, and I keep calling it my Flowers in the Attic book, which, you know, the V.C. Andrews classic. It's going to be kidnapped kids living in a barn. You know, it's going to be sort of interesting.
A 200-year-old barn with a ghost, Kate?
I don't think there's going to be a ghost in it.
Okay. I'm just checking.
You know, it's kind of funny because I'm not entirely sure I will ever go back to ghosts. I really love, I did that one ghost book and that was fun. But I think that most of my stuff is going to be pretty firmly planted on Earth. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be a haunted past.
Ooh, well, we're here for the haunted past and whatever you put up for us next. Kate Moretti, thank you so much for joining us. George is saying this has been so fun. Thank you both. George, always a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Melissa saying thanks, Sarah and Kate. Melissa, so great to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for spending this time with us at 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. Central, depending on where you are. I've got Andrea Bartz here to tell us all about We Were Never Here. So I'll see you in 20 minutes. Stay tuned.
I might tune in for that.
Tune in, girl. And we will see you when your next book is out.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah. Always a good time here.
Yay. Have a great night.
You too.